Hey friends, welcome to Cubalamus. Here you get some of the amazing gaming stuff on the internet. Today, we have brought something for you that you might have never thought of. Nintendo 64 has always been a decent platform for players where they can play some great games on the internet. To date, it has over 296 games on the platforms, quite low as compared to PlayStation's 1,100 games and Sega Saturn's 600 games. Games such as Super Mario 64, The Legend of Zelda, and Banjo-Kazooie have made history on their own, but that's not what we'll be talking about. We will be going the other way. We have listed the top 10 worst games on Nintendo 64 that have possibly offended the players either one way or another. Curious to know about them? So without wasting any time, let's get started. Hexen. A critically successful PC game, Hexen was ported to the Nintendo 64 in 1997. When the game was introduced to the Nintendo 64, almost everything that made the game good on PC was removed. The haunting soundtracks, the story-explaining cutscenes, and almost everything good were stripped out. Players just had to navigate complex levels with just one of 3 characters present in the game, one of which did not even have a projectile-based weapon. Being an FPP game, it was too poor to be ignored. Another thing that added to the successful failure of the game was its releasing time. The game had already been quite old by its release on the Nintendo 64 platform. Looks bad? Don't worry, we have just started. WCW Nitro. Wrestling was surely one genre where Nintendo 64 was able to outshine its competitors. The very popular WCW, now WWE, games developed by Ashmic and AKI are still found to be quite popular among gamers as the gold standards of a wrestling game. When WCW Nitro was released in 1999, WCW had already developed some well-criticized games in the market. Releasing this game was surely a puzzling decision for the development team as it was originally a PlayStation product. Players faced exceptionally frustrating controls and 2 short matches in the game matches even faster than a Roman Reigns spear.
Zigzag and killed out of the ring!
Every real-life WCW wrestler took almost 15 seconds to convince the players to choose only them. Seems quite boring.
When you're getting in the ring with Eddie Guerrero, it's gonna be high-flying and exciting.
Nintendo surely reduced the quality of the game that PlayStation redeemed in its later releases. Clay Fighter 63, 1, and 3.
To the tail, but Dr. Kiln planned to prevail and re-release the meteor's goo and set more fighters on the loose. Irklaimoto, I'll just quakes in fear, but none of our heroes have their way and force the evil goons to...
In simple words, it's too poor to stand in the gaming market. Neither having good action nor having fun, Clay Fighters only claimed itself as a parody of fighting games. Once you remove the cartoon-like characters that are serving as playable characters, the Terminator as a rabbit, RoboCop as a hobo, a Chinese man who fights with chopsticks, you are only left with a slow fighting game that can be easily manipulated with the buttons. The one claim of the game to fame is that the Sculptor's Cut edition of the game is one of the most expensive Nintendo games for the collectors. That's it. Overall, it is surely worth being on our list of the top 10 worst games on Nintendo 64. South Park Rally.
Pay attention. For our first race, we have set up 4 checkpoints around the town. Each racer must drive over the 4 checkpoints in numerical order. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 for your dyslexic driver.
We all know how hard it is to play Mario Kart games for too long. I totally accept that it is a great party game and something to remove the boredom from your busy day with its fun graphics and actions. But it will not take you long to lose your temper, even if you are the most patient person out there with the quick turns of the game that turns your triumph into defeat. South Park Rally simply tries to show you how you can go mad if all the fun part of the game gets removed. The repetitive voice acting on the display the poor controls, and the plain course design that just seem worthless. I can tell you more negative things about the game, but let it be professional. A bit. Dark Rift. Looking at the release date and the posters of the game, anyone around 1997 would say it is a very pretty game for the players. But suddenly, the world was introduced to an uninspired cast of characters. Most of the characters of the game were a better or worse variation on Demon or the tough guy with a big weapon. The lack of originality surely affected the popularity and the success of the game. The other two games that were released along with the game by the developing company were kind of flops. However, they were released on different systems, but they all panned for their lack of originality and derivative nature. Polaris Snowcross. The game was released in the late 90s and the early 2000s, a time where everyone was trying to present something extreme, whether it is wrestling, sports, or even the Ghostbusters. Polaris Snowcross was released to promote snowmobiling racing. However, the game turned out to be a very horrible promoter of the sport with its never-ending glitches. Simple jumps send you crashing through the scenery and getting stuck, disappearing trees and walls on a whim, and the poorest pixels to display the sky. In simple words, the game surely affected the other way as the developers would have expected to do, that's for sure. Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. Seriously, if any of the Power Rangers cast would have seen it, they would have either laughed loudly or would have been quite angry. The game was released at the end of Nintendo 64's life, and yet, one of the worst games released on the platform. Like the poorest of the graphic designing, the grass is represented as the solid green color and the sidewalks were displayed as solid white. All you need to do in this boring game is to run to the end of the map and shoot some glittery balls of energy at your enemies. Once done, repeat the same until you find yourself maddened. Batman Beyond: The Return of the Joker. Batman has been a legendary series in cinemas and comics. The Arkham series perfectly captured the feeling of being Batman in their video games. Many tried before them as well, and failed. One company, Ubisoft, was able to analyze that fighting was a crucial part of being Batman. However, they failed when it came to the execution. The game only had two fighting methods, punches and kicks. In the game, Batman enters a room filled with enemies and clears all with his pre-designed kicks and punches. After finishing the room, he moves to the next room, quite identical to the first room, and continues the same thing, kicks and punches. The game would continue either if your player dies or if you leave the game out of boredom. Olympic Hockey Nagano 98.
USA versus Finland.
Olympic Hockey 98 was a sequel of the 3D hockey developed by Wayne Gretzky. The game was released with the intention to improve the game quality and fix the minor bugs that were in the previous game. Released just after 3 months of 3D hockey, Olympic Hockey Nagano 98 turned out to be a massive failure for the team. Almost everything was the same. What was updated was the names of the players and a small bunch of flags on the jerseys of the players. Another element contributing to the successful failure of the game was the gravity-defying power checks that were removed from such a game which was supposed to present the realistic and cleaner version of hockey. What else would they do to make it worse? Superman: The New Adventures.
In short time, your fate will be sealed, Superman.
I am not joking. This game based on our favorite Superman has been the most panned in the history of Nintendo 64. So many players, websites, and magazines have criticized the game for so many things. Talking seriously, everything went wrong with the game. The distance is so thick and strong that developers call it the Kryptonite Fog. It looks more like a feature than a bug. The game has broken controls, the poorest of graphics, and the most inconvenient of gameplays. In the game, you can't even see more than 3 feet in front of you. Is that how Superman flies? Looks quite bad. Well, it is just the half description of the game's quality. Isn't it the worst of all? Alright guys, so these were the top 10 worst games on Nintendo 64 on our list that have just hurt the players. Let us know in the comments section if you have something more horrible than these ones. That is it for now. We will come back with some fresh and interesting topics soon. Till then, keep exploring.